It's Wednesday, May the 20th, 2026. You're listening to the DX Today AI Daily Brief. Today, Google opens Gemini 3.5 Flash to the world at I.O. OpenAI brings its coding agent into the data center with Dell. And Meta begins one of the largest workforce realignments in tech history. Let's get into it.
Google kicked off I.O. 2026 in Mountain View on Tuesday with the general availability of Gemini 3.5 Flash, a model the company is positioning as frontier intelligence at 4 times the speed of comparable systems. Pricing comes in at $1.50 per million input tokens and $9 per million output tokens, with a 1 million token context window. On Google's own benchmarks, Flash beat the larger Gemini 3.1 Pro on coding and agentic tasks, scoring 76.2 on Terminal Bench 2.1. Sundar Pichai framed the launch as Google's answer to the caste and latency pressures hitting enterprise AI buyers, with rollouts starting immediately across the Gemini app, Search, the Gemini API, and Anti-Gravity 2.0.
From Mountain View to Round Rock.
OpenAI also moved on Tuesday, announcing a partnership with Dell Technologies to bring its Codex coding agent into hybrid and on-premises enterprise environments. The deal lets regulated industries run Codex against private code bases without sending source code into the public cloud, a long-standing blocker for banks, hospitals, and defense contractors. Dell will package Codex into its AI Factory reference architectures, pairing the OpenAI agent with Dell Power Edge servers and validated NVIDIA Blackwell configurations. For OpenAI, this is the clearest sign yet that the company sees enterprise deployment, not just consumer ChatGPT, as the path to recurring revenue. The announcement landed the same week OpenAI confirmed a $122 billion funding round and quiet preparations for an eventual public listing.
Now to Menlo Park.
Meta began notifying staff on Wednesday morning that it is laying off roughly 10% of its 80,000-person global workforce, the largest single round of cuts in the company's history. North American staffers were told to work from home as severance notices started landing at 4 a.m. Pacific. Beyond the headline reductions, Meta said it will leave roughly 6,000 open positions unfilled and reassign about 7,000 engineers and researchers onto AI-native product teams. Mark Zuckerberg framed the move internally as offsetting the company's massive capital spending on data centers and frontier model training. The cuts hit product, recruiting, and middle management hardest, sparing core AI research, Reality Labs, and the teams shipping the Llama models.
Redmond made its own move.
Microsoft followed with the first ever voluntary buyout program in the company's 50-year history, offering severance packages to roughly 7% of its US workforce, or about 8,750 employees. The buyouts target longer-tenured staff in roles Microsoft expects to automate or restructure as it folds Copilot agents deeper into Office, Azure, and Dynamics. Satya Nadella told employees the program is meant to convert payroll into AI capital expenditure, freeing budget to extend the company's already record $100 billion spend with OpenAI. Between Meta and Microsoft, more than 20,000 jobs are now in motion in a single week, the clearest signal yet that hyperscalers are restructuring around agentic workflows rather than headcount growth.
Over to Orlando.
At SAP Sapphire 2026 on Tuesday, Chief Executive Christian Klein unveiled what he called the Autonomous Enterprise, an end-to-end AI platform spanning finance, spend, supply chain, human capital, and customer experience. The centerpiece is an Anthropic partnership that puts Claude at the heart of SAP's reasoning stack, with more than 200 pre-built agents and 50 assistants set to land inside SAP applications over the coming months. The company says agents will execute multi-step workflows like closing the books, sourcing parts, or processing returns with humans approving at key checkpoints. SAP is betting that deep enterprise data plus Anthropic reasoning beats general-purpose copilots, putting direct pressure on Oracle, Workday, Microsoft Dynamics, and Salesforce Agentforce.
And in Beijing,
Baidu reported first quarter 2026 results on Tuesday, beating consensus on revenue, adjusted profit, and operating profit, with the AI business now formally larger than its legacy at Engine. Total revenue came in at 32.08 billion yuan, roughly $4.54 billion US dollars. Baidu AI Cloud grew 79% year-over-year to 8.8 billion yuan, while the broader AI-powered business hit 13.6 billion yuan, or 52% of general business revenue. Robin Li told analysts that Ernie 5.1 now ranks first among Chinese models on the LM Arena leaderboard. Apollo Go, Baidu's autonomous ride-hailing service, delivered 3.2 million rides, up 120% year-over-year.
Now to the City of London.
Standard Chartered Chief Executive Bill Winters used a Bloomberg interview on Tuesday to say the bank will cut roughly 8,000 support roles over the next 4 years, framing the move as replacing what he called lower-value human capital with financial and technology capital. The reductions amount to about 15% of Standard Chartered's 52,000-person support staff, with most of the savings redirected into AI tooling for back-office, compliance, and middle-office functions. Winters' remarks landed days after Goldman Sachs President John Waldron described his own firm's traditional operations as a, quote, human assembly line ripe for automation. Wall Street's tone on AI has shifted decisively this quarter from productivity gains to outright headcount reduction.
Over to Seattle.
Amazon launched Alexa Podcasts on Tuesday inside its premium Alexa Plus assistant, letting subscribers generate full podcast-style episodes on virtually any topic in minutes. The feature draws on more than 200 licensed news publications, encyclopedias, and reference sources, then stitches the material into a multi-voice show with intros, transitions, and outros. Amazon says episodes can be customized by length, tone, and host style, with users able to pause and ask follow-up questions mid-playback. The launch puts Amazon in direct competition with Google's Notebook LM audio overviews and a new wave of AI-native podcast startups. It also gives Alexa Plus, which has struggled to differentiate from ChatGPT and Gemini, a clear consumer hook tied to Amazon's content ecosystem.
Back to New York.
Blackstone announced on Tuesday it will anchor a new US-based AI cloud company in partnership with Google, committing $5 billion in equity capital. The joint venture will lease land and power to build out gigawatt-scale AI campuses, with Google Cloud providing the tensor processing unit infrastructure and operating model. Blackstone President John Gray called it the largest single private equity commitment to AI infrastructure to date. The deal slots into a broader pattern in 2026 of asset managers funneling pension and insurance capital into AI data centers, joining moves by BlackRock, Brookfield, Apollo, and TPG. For Google, the structure shifts heavy infrastructure capex off its balance sheet, while locking in long-term demand for Gemini and TPU capacity.
Up to Toronto.
Kids Help Phone, Canada's national crisis service for young people, announced on Tuesday a 5-year research partnership with Toronto Metropolitan University, backed by a $3.2 million award from the Wellcome Trust. The funding will build a generative AI-powered conversation simulator that lets new texting volunteers train against realistic scenarios involving anxiety, self-harm ideation, abuse disclosures, and suicidal crisis. The system also acts as a performance assessor, scoring volunteer responses against clinical best practice and flagging trainees who need additional supervision. Kids Help Phone fields roughly 2.5 million conversations a year, and leadership says AI simulation will let it scale training without burning out clinical mentors. The model code and evaluation framework will be released openly to other crisis lines.
And to Suwon.
Samsung used the second day of Google I/O on Tuesday to unveil its first consumer AI eyewear, branded Samsung Intelligent Eyewear, built on the Android XR platform and powered by Gemini 3.5 Flash. The glasses pair a forward-facing camera with bone conduction audio, on-lens microdisplays, and a Gemini agent that can answer ambient questions, translate signs in real time, and capture short hands-free clips. Samsung says battery life lands at roughly 8 hours of mixed use with an optional charging case, extending that to a full day. Pricing starts at $699, with U.S. pre-orders opening next week. The launch puts Samsung squarely in competition with Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses and Apple's expected Vision wearable refresh later this year.
And finally to San Francisco.
Developer tools startup Browserbase released Browse on Tuesday, an open-source command line interface that lets AI agents drive any modern web browser through a custom-tuned Chrome DevTools protocol driver. The release ships alongside the Open Web Catalog, a public index of structured tasks and site contracts that agents can call instead of scraping pages blindly. Browserbase says, Browse cuts the latency and failure rate of agent web navigation by roughly half compared with vanilla Playwright, and the company is releasing model adapters for Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google. The launch lands in a crowded agent infrastructure market where Parallel, Reworked, and Apify are also competing to be the default way AI agents touch the live internet.
That's your briefing for Wednesday, May the 20th, 2026. For DX Today, stay curious.